Welcome to Capstone Project Prep on Part 2 session, guys, and a very warm good morning to everyone once again. So, while you are into this particular session, please do follow the guidelines. So, all the questions will be answered once the session is completed, and participants are requested to message their doubts in the chat box only. And if you get any kind of confusion about this particular sessions, you can refer to the COEPD YouTube channel as these session would be recorded and this recorded video would be uploaded in COEPD YouTube channel. And if you observe clearly, this is the continuation of the first Capstone project Prep 1 Part 1 case study. In all these three parts, Capstone project Prep 1 Part 1, Capstone project Prep 1 Part 2, and Capstone project Prep 1 Part 3. In all these particular three parts, there will be a similar and common case study, and all these questions will be the continuation for that particular case study only. So let us try to go with let us go with the following teams. So the case study is once again the Mr. Anthony, a prosperous NRI, had the idea to develop a website devoted to fashion with a focus on high-end apparel and accessories. He has collaborated on the application with Mr. Bhaskar and Miss Kathy, and Mr. Dominic. The website should be easy to navigate and have a contemporary look and process the payments quickly. Upon looking at the papers, Mr. Anthony has understood that Mr. Kathy, Miss Kathy already had a similar application, and as the sales are drastically declining, Mr. Anthony has taken on the duty of improving the application. The timeline of the project is 18 months with 1 crore of the budget. And as of now, for this particular case study, the current problems being faced by Miss Kathy are lack of knowledge of fashion of the customers and lack of customer reach. And once again, looking at this particular current problems, Mr. Anthony has a team pulled in on board. On board in the sense there are two different types. One is of offshore and one is of onshore, on-site. So if you try to understand the Mr. Anthony, the company from Nova Corp on-site team has the following team like Mr. Philip as project head and Mr. Walter White as a committee member, Miss Ruby and Serena as committee members as well. And Mr. Anthony outsourced this particular project to the company named like Adino offshore team, Mr. John delivery head, and Miss Anna as project manager, and Mr. Chase as senior Java developer, and Miss Nora Java developer, Mr. Shushank Java developer, and Miss Vivan as Java developer, and Mr. Mr. John as network admins as well as database admins, and Mr. Jason as well as Miss Nefen testers. And you guys will be acting as it business. I mean, just a second, guys. So can you be able to see my screen, guys? Now, yes, no in the chat box, please, everyone. Is it fine now? Yes, fine. So this is what exactly the like particular case study, and here now the primary task of a business analyst is to decode the case study, the project idea. So by decoding this particular case study, we will get to know what is the project idea, what are the current needs, and what is the overview of the project and the current problems, and know the team. So in general, you have to prepare the the answer for this particular question, particular case study by following this guidelines. Yes, I think everyone is visible, right? For everyone, it's visible. Yes, thank you. So the project idea is to develop a website devoted to fashion with a focus on high-end apparel and accessories. And current needs for this particular case study is or easy to navigate and have a contemporary look and process the payments quickly. And overview of the project is it's an e-commerce based project, and there is also an existing application present, but the current project would like to take the inputs from the current one and work on the new one. And current problems are like a declining of sales and non it has non user friendly interface, as well as unable to handle the competition outside the market. And know the team, in the sense you have to make sure that your whoever the teammates involved in this particular project should be mentioned once you decode this case study. So here in this particular capstone project prep on part 2 document, you have to prepare your word document for this particular questions whichever we are going to discuss. Here is in this particular capstone project prep on part 2, there will be 12 questions. You have to answer them in word document. So let us discuss how to prepare them and how to answer them in your word document. So the first question is create 5 quarterly audits for this particular project. So in the same tabular format, whichever we have given in this particular frame, so you have to prepare accordingly. So let us try to understand what is an audit. So if you try to understand, our quarterly audits are nothing but the regular checks done every 3 months to review and access where the areas of the business are getting failed or getting completed, or everything will be undergoing with the checks in these particular areas. For example, while we discuss about this particular case study or the project, we will go through the audit reports of requirement gathering phase and requirement analysis phase and design phase, as well as the development phase, as well as the testing phase. So we will make sure that by making this particular audit reports, we will make sure that all the requirements has been gathered, and we will make sure that all the requirements has been analyzed, and we will make sure that all the requirements has been designed as per the requirements, and we will make sure that all the requirements are meeting towards the testing as well as the development, vice versa. So in the similar way, audits will help us to identify where exactly the progress of the particular case study or the project is. For example, it tracks the project, how exactly it does. So it ensures that projects are on the track and meets the objectives as we check on the regular basis. And it identifies the issues. For example, there might be any spot and there might be any spot identified and fix the problems before they grow. And it also helps in improving the accuracy of the data, so by verifying the reports. And it also makes sure that we are going this particular project is going to follow the compliance, ensuring that business follows the rules and regulations as per the government policies, vice versa. In the similar way, you have to prepare your document for all these uh, particular audit report, quarterly audits for requirement gathering phase and requirement analysis phase, design phase, deployment, as well as the testing phase. So make sure you are going to prepare these 5 quarterly audits for this particular project. So while preparing this particular question, make sure you are going to explain what is an audit, and then follow with the requirement gathering phase audit, as well as the requirement analysis, design, deployment, as well as development, as well as the testing, vice versa. This is what exactly the first question. And the second question is BA approach strategy. So BA approach strategy is nothing but what exactly the BA business analyst will be doing in order to approach with this particular project. So for example, a BA will be responsible for gathering the requirements from the different set of scale stakeholders. So in order to gather them, and whatever the next steps will be followed for a BA. For example, what elicitation techniques to apply. So as we have a number of elicitation techniques, so the BA will be responsible for gathering requirements, right? So he will be using the elicitation techniques to gather the requirements from the different set of stakeholders. So for example, we have many elicitation techniques to apply, like gathering require to gather requirements. Some of them are like brainstorming, document analysis, reverse engineering, focus groups, observations, and the next task could be identifying the stakeholders by using race matrix, and who will which defines the roles and responsibilities of the particular project, and he will be responsible for documenting everything, in the sense like documenting the requirements whichever he have gathered, like categorizing them into functional and non-functional requirements. The business analyst will be preparing the business requirement document, functional requirement document, use case documents, test case documents, and vice versa, etc. There, whichever the documents that whichever the documents a business analyst will be preparing, you have to mention them. So in the similar way, you have to prepare what kind of illustration techniques that you are going to apply, and how are you going to make this stakeholder analysis, and how what kind of documents that you are going to write for this particular case study, and what process that you follow to take sign off on the documents whichever you are going to write, and how to take the approvals from the client. How are you going to take the approvals from the client? You have to write that approach as well, and what communication channels to establish and implement. So by conducting regular meetings and weekly status meetings, vice versa, what kind of communication channels that you are going to implement while you are into this particular project, you have to write for that, and how to handle a change request. How are you going to handle a change request for the particular projects? Everything you have to these all these things are related to the BA approach strategy. So in a similar way, you have to prepare the answers for this particular in under this particular question number two, BA approach strategy. You make sure you are going to ensure all these particular answers to be given in this particular question only, and how to update the progress of the project to the stakeholders by giving preparing the weekly status reports, monthly review meetings, and monthly reports, vice versa, and how to take sign off on the UAT client project acceptance from form, vice versa. You have to write all this BA approach, that what were the approaches that you are going to follow as a business analyst for this particular case study should be written over this in second particular question, BA approach strategy. And next question, so explain the three-tier architecture. So let us try to understand what is the three-tier architecture initially. So it's a software design model that separates an application into three layers. Initially, three layers. The three layers, or we call them as three tiers. So this makes the system easier to manage, like it makes more secure. So let us try to understand how these three tiers will be going to work on. So the first layer is known as presentation layer. So where the user interface will be, so where the user interface, like people will be interacting with the system, like for example home pages or web pages, and the applications that we are on the regular basis we are using. So it shows the data to the users and take the input from them. For example, like homepage, we search for something, it gives results for something. So in a similar way, it's nothing but presentation layer. And the second most layer is nothing but application layer, which is also called, it's also called as a logical layer. So in simple terms, we call it as a brain of the system, where the business logic is processed on the backend process. So like it's simple, like it handles, so it's simple, like it handles the process and data that decides what to do. For example, as it acts as an intermediary in between the presentation layer and the data storage layer. It contains the core logic of the application, like printers as well as the payment gateways, etc. So if we go on speaking about data tier, like a database layer. So it's the last most layer, which is also called bottommost layer of the architecture, responsible for storing and retrieving the data, for example MySQL and Oracle database. So in the similar way, you have to write three-tier architecture for your particular case study in this third question. So write about the approach strategy for framing question. So for every approach, whichever the approach that you're going, either it might be a strategy approach or a frame like a gathering requirement approach or whatever it might be. There is a set of like strategy that we are going to apply in terms of framing the questions to gather the requirements from the stakeholders. So most probably we will be using like the 5W1H and smart techniques, and race matrix is to identify the stakeholders, and UML diagram is unified modeling language to present the requirements whichever we have gathered in diagram, etc. So let us try to understand what is 5W1H. 5W first initially 5W1H is a technique that is a framework, is a useful tool for gathering information and understanding a situation by answering the questions about who, what, when, where, why, and how. For example, if we try to understand, so W stands for who, right? So who is involved in this particular project or who is going to be affected. For example, who will use this particular application. And if we try to understand next what, so what is the issue or what is the goal of the particular project. For example, what problems are trying to solve by this particular project, and when, right? So when is nothing but when should this to be done. For example, when will the project be completed or vice versa, etc. And where in the sense where will be this taking place. So for example, like where will this process will where this process will be implemented, and why. So why this project is being conducted. For example, in the similar way, why this is important, and why do need this feature, and how it would be done, how can we achieve this particular goal. So in the similar way, we will frame this 5W1H question to get the details and the requirements in every scenario bit in every point of view. Okay. And next framing technique is like smart analysis, using smart framework. So a framework for setting clear and achievable goals. For example, S stands for specific. Be clear about what you want to achieve. For example, as per the case study, want if my client wants to increase sales by 10%, then it would be specific goal. So clear, specific view has been there, right? So in a similar way, M stands for measurable, achievable, R for relevant, and T for time bound. In the similar way, whatever the framing questions that you have, whatever the approach strategy that you are using for framing questions, you have to mention them in this particular question number 4. And if we speak on like fifth and sixth questions, it's completely about the elicitation techniques. So elicitation techniques. So the fifth question is completely speaking about whatever the different set of elicitation techniques that we have, and the sixth question itself speaks about what are the different types of elicitation techniques that you use in this particular project. So justify your opinion. For example, if we try to elaborate it, we have like 11 different sets of elicitation techniques like brainstorming, document analysis, reverse engineering, focus groups, observations, workshops, JAD, JAD sessions, interview, prototypes, questionnaires, use case specifications. So in the similar way, for this particular question, question number 5, you have to elaborate all these particular elicitation techniques and explain them. And while going with the sixth question, you have to make sure whichever the elicitation techniques that you are going to use for your project should be mentioned and explained in this particular sixth question. So the next seventh question is what write 10 business requirement. So business requirements are the specific needs or conditions that a business must meet to achieve its objectives. For example, it focuses on the business goals and the values a solution will deliver, right? So in the similar way, for every project, it will be important for to make proper alignment as well as the clarity and to create a basic foundation to the project. So there is a need for business requirement. So in the similar way, whatever the requirements, for example, as per this case study, we have written few questions like few requirements. For example, user should be able to search products in the application, and user should be able to browse through the product catalog. Users need to create login ID as well as password. Is in the sense users needs to register with the application, and if the user is new user, then he should be create login. So in the sense registration part as well and login part as well. So in the similar way, whatever the business requirements as per the client requirement, whichever the initial client has given, so you have to write your 10 business requirements over here in this particular seventh question. And it and so while going with the eighth question, so assumption write four assumptions based on this particular project. So for example, let us try to understand what is an assumption first initially. So assumptions is nothing but considered, like, see, where the things to be considered true or certain without concrete proof. For example, we don't have any kind of proof whether whatever we are assuming, we don't have any kind of proof. But the thing is, if it gets success, then it would be a achievement. If it gets failed, then it would be a negative feedback for the entire project. So there are these are like temporary beliefs that we are going to make to move the next phases of the project. For example, but though we are having like these assumptions, we have to make sure that we are going to validate these assumptions as well. So for example, let us assume that a user can log in Facebook or Google account. So assumption 2, a user has the knowledge of on fashion. And for this particular case study, an online shopping trend is increasing. The customer prefer online shopping. So it's an quite different assumption I'm going to make to move my project going further ahead. Because see, as per the previous client mentioned in the case study, there is a drastical declining in the online shopping store product store. So and the customer prefer online shopping only. Nowadays it's quite difficult, so I'm making this move ahead, thinking ahead behind this particular case study, so that I can work on these particular things, so that it can be planned accordingly and achieve accordingly. So the designers have the designs to display in the application. The need for the application is ever growing. In the similar way, the customers have online accounts for secured payment processing. In the similar way, you have to write your four different assumptions for your particular case study, whichever you will be assigned. And the main motive behind this assumption is to plan accordingly. So in order to make some new plan, there should be a few other assumptions, so that accordingly we can move ahead with the planning steps. So this is what exactly assumption means. And actually these assumptions will be helping us to make decisions in terms of uncertain situations. Also, we can make decisions by using a few of the assumptions. And it acts as like a basic foundation for the planning, and it also helps us to identify the risk with this project. So these are what the things. So next question is like ninth question is requirements priority. So project requirement priority refers to the in simple terms determining the importance of the particular requirement within a project. For example, if, let us think user should create a login and user should register with the application. So how exactly it's important for this online shopping store? It's an really an important thing so that the all exist users can easily use the application and shop the products through online shopping store. Without this particular login as well as the registration part, can the users can log in and buy the products from the online shopping store? Not exactly. So in the similar way, it's playing an important role for this particular, this requirement is playing an important role for this particular case study, I mean in the sense particular project. So in the similar way, depending upon the how it's important for this project, we will be giving the priority project requirements priority for the each requirement, will be giving the priority points. So for example, there is for example, we will use the Moscow method to give the priority points. For example, what exactly the Moscow method is? Moscow is nothing but M stands for, Moscow method stands for must have, should have, could have, and won't have. So in the similar way, so must have in the sense essential requirements that are critical to the project success, as well as the should have in the sense important requirements that to, but not critical, so can be delayed if necessary, so that the points could be somewhat less compared to the previous one. And could have in the sense desirable but not essential, sometimes can be included if time and resources are low. In that cases we can use them. And won't have in the sense integration with the third party applications for this version. So requirements that will not be included in the current project but might be considered later. So in the similar way, we will use the Moscow method to give the requirements priority according to the how important this particular case study is about. Particular requirements for this particular case study is about. In the same tabular format like requirement ID, requirement name, and requirement description and priority points, you have to prepare your answer in the Word document. So the next 10th question is prepare a use case diagram. So let us try to understand what exactly the use case diagram is. So in this is a general overview. Actual a use case diagram is a visual representation of the interaction in between the user as well as the system, and user in the sense actors and a system. So in the similar way, you have to prepare your use case diagrams as per the initial requirements of the client, whichever you have given, and whatever the requirements you have gathered accordingly, you have to prepare your use case diagram. And this use case diagram is prepared by using a tool named like MS Visio, which comes under the modeling phase. So in general, what exactly happens, BA will be responsible for identifying the goals, objectives of the business, and then the business like a business analyst will be identifying the stakeholders who are involved in this particular project. And then this business analyst will be conducting one-on-ones and interviews, vice versa, using elicitation techniques. He will be gathering all those requirements from the different stakeholders, and then analyzing those requirements into by categorizing them into functional requirements, non-functional requirements, and documents into BRDF or DSRS, and some other documents, vice versa, etc. And once all these phases done, so the next stage is to model those requirements. In this use case diagram is drawn in this particular modeling requirements. Once all the document has been done, there is a need for modeling the requirements to present it with the stakeholders, so that the stakeholders can view these particular diagrams and understand what exactly the flow and the requirements initially got it brought throughout this particular project. So as a part of modeling requirements, we do have UML diagrams. In as a part of that, in UML diagrams, we have use case diagram as well as the activity diagrams as well. So we prepare this both use case diagram as well as activity diagram by using a tool MS Visio. We will get to know in detail about this particular tool, and you will be trained on this particular tool, how to use and how to create in detail. Okay, in the tool session you will be in detail, you will be explained. So if you have any queries about this preparation of this particular use case diagram, you can go and refer to the CYPD YouTube channel and ask for the MS Visio explain MS Visio tool. Check with the MS Visio tool so that you will get to know tool session. You will get to know how to use this particular use case how to create this use case diagram as well as the activity diagrams for this particular case study. You have to align accordingly and you have to prepare your things accordingly. And next question is so see, as the 12th question is of activity diagram, so you have to prepare accordingly the 5 different activity diagrams. An activity diagram is a type of diagram in the UML, like UML in the sense unified modeling language, that visually represents the flow of activities within a system. So hint, so what you can do is you can prepare your use cases as well as the use case specifications as well as the activity diagrams for this particular requirement. So user registration, search for products or add products to the cart, may make a payment, delivery, etc. So it would be easy for you to make understand and you can prepare it easily. So in depending on this for particular 5 areas, you can prepare use case specification document as well as the use case diagram as well as activity diagrams for this particular 5 situations. So in order to prepare with this activity diagrams as well as the use case diagrams, you have to make a note. You have to refer the tool session, which we have uploaded in the YouTube channel as well. You can also the sessions which will be conducted on the weekend batches as well as the premium tools batch, which will be conducted. I think you have an idea about these things. If you still have queries about this particular thing, you can visit the CYPD YouTube channel with tool sessions. So this particular diagrams are created by using MS Visual tool. Okay. And while going with the next question, 5 use case specification documents. A use case specification document is nothing but it provides a detailed description of a use case, like outlining how users are interacting with the system to achieve a specific goal. So if you try to understand here, there are the few of the particulars which we have mentioned in the tabular format. So make sure you are going to prepare in the same tabular format. Okay. Yeah, that's it. So I what I can suggest you while going with this particular preparation is nothing but try to elaborate and understand what exactly the concept is first initially, then go and write your document in the Word document. Okay, that's it, guys. That's it for Capstone Project Prep 1 Part 2. If you have any queries, please do let me know in the chat box, please. Yes, you will be preparing the use case and activity diagrams by using the tools, right? So if you attend the doubts clarification session, you will get to know, and you have to attend the nurturing inductions as well. So once you attend them, you will get to know. See, you have to create a slot with the portal so that in your particular slot, we will install the tools from our end. Our team, CYP team, will be installing those particular tools in your system at your slot booking time. So you have to prepare accordingly for that. So make sure you are going to attend the nurturing session and the doubt clarification session. And in the meanwhile, if you have any queries, you can directly reach out to the student coordinators as well. If not, you can raise the service request as well. So if you raise a service request in the CYPD nurturing from the CYPD nurturing tab, then it would be, best for you. Actually, this tool session would be see, these tools will be installed from our end only. So once you book a slot, the slot would be for 30 minutes, half an hour. We will install the tools in your slot. I mean, tools in your system at your slot time in the given time only. Is it clarified, Ashwadeepa? Any more queries? So, Ashwadeepa, see, we from COEPD don't ask any of the participants to allow their camera, or we don't ask the candidates to turn on their camera. We will be everything will be same in the same interaction whichever we are having right now. And while going with going further, you will be apart from this particular sessions, everything will be one-on-one sessions only for every individual participant. And Ashwadeepa, how to add it to the document? Take as if you take as if you save it and you can add it directly to the Word document itself. Just try it with. So you can't get this Nahid Anjum, right? So you can't get this PPT. If you want the particulars in this, you can refer to the UCY YouTube channel so that you can prepare accordingly. Yes, once you prepare the activity diagrams as well as the use case diagram by using the tool MS Visio, you have to save it and you have to normally add it to the document you from the Word document itself. It can be possible once you try before raising this question. Once you try, you will get to know everything in detail. If not, you can directly take a snap of the image. If not, you can directly take a snap of the diagram and you can directly attach it over the document. Any more questions, guys? If not, we will end of this session. If you have any questions, please do write out in the chat box. Can you attend my question? So, Pavani, could you please write the question once again? Yes. Do we have to implement the rules like generalization in use case diagram? Yes, exactly. According to the requirements, we have to use the it's not rule, it's a relationship that we are going to use. So according to the initial requirements by the client, it will be completely depends. So if it requires, you have to add those relationship accordingly, because it completely depends upon the initial client requirements. So yes. And I am new to this capstone project. Please guide me how to attend the capstone part 1 prep 1 is scheduled for tomorrow 11th December. I'm not aware. So how exactly you have joined this particular session, right? In the similar way, you have to join with the Capstone project prep one part one session, which is scheduled for you on 11th December. There would be the same process which is followed. If it is scheduled for 11th December for you, then you have to follow the same procedure. How exactly you have joined for this particular session, Capstone project prep one part two. And I hope like yesterday we have went through Capstone project prep one part one session. So check with the YouTube with the Capstone project prep one part one session so that it would be resolved. And if you have still queries, you can reach out to the CYPD YouTube channel with the sessions. And if not, you can attend the sessions once more. Anything else from your end, guys? If anything, please do write it in the chat box. If not, you can leave, and we will end up this over here itself. So that's it, guys. So this is all about the capstone project prep one part 2 session, and make sure you are going to prepare your answers for the particular questions whichever given to you in the particular question paper in the Word document, and upload it for the evaluation. And if you have still any queries, or if you have any concern, directly reach out to the COEPD YouTube channel about this particular session, so that you can refer to this video and you can answer accordingly once again. Yeah, thank you guys. Have a nice day. Bye bye.